Good morning, everyone, and happy Wednesday. Let's give everyone a minute to join before we begin. All right, we'll go ahead and get things started here. We have some exciting things for you today. And thank you so much for joining us for today's webinar on product updates and our 2025 roadmap. My name is Pranati Gompa, and I'm a program manager here at Fieldwire. Before we begin, I would like to address a few housekeeping items. To ensure a smooth session, attendees will be muted, but please don't hesitate to ask any questions you might have in the Q&A panel. We will have a Q&A session at the end of this presentation, and we'll do our best to get through as many questions as we can. For any questions we don't get to, our experts will reach out to you directly. We also have some poll questions during the webinar for you to participate in. So please feel free to select your answers when the questions pop up. And additionally, we have a quick 5-question short survey at the end of this webinar. We would really appreciate it if you could fill it out. This survey helps us to determine the usefulness of the content that we deliver and also helps us to plan for our future webinars. So before we dive into the webinar, let's take a moment to fill out a couple of poll questions so that we can learn a little bit more about you. And there comes your first question. What type of company do you work for? Just a quick answer on these different options that are there. Perfect. We have another question for you. Just another quick second here. What is your role at your company? Awesome. Thank you so much for answering those. And without further ado, I would like to welcome our VP of Product, Stefan. The stage is yours, Stefan.
Cool. Thank you, Pranati, and hi everyone. Great to see you on this webinar. So first of all, I want to apologize in advance if I lose my voice. I'm currently fighting a flu, but we'll try to power through this webinar. So I'm the VP of Products. So I oversee our product team, which is the product team responsible for building the products and the features that best meets your needs. Just a bit about myself. So I'm originally from France, as you can probably tell from the way my name is spelled and also like my funny accent. I started my career in the construction industry. So spent about 5 years working for a general contractor in the San Francisco Bay Area. And then I joined Fieldwire 8 years ago. So I was one of the early employees. and I've been leading the product team for most of my time at Fieldwire. So yeah, I'm excited to tell you a bit more about what we've been working on this past year. If you go to the next slide, Pranati. So I'll spend about 10 minutes going over kind of the highlights of what we've launched in 2024. And then I'll spend most of the presentation talking about the future and some of the cool things that we have in the works. Good. So starting with 2024 launches. So this is not quite the Spotify Wrapped, but this is a recap of key launches that we've made this year. I mean, all in all, we probably launched about 50 features and products, and those are kind of the highlights. I'm going to go over each one of them and I have a few slides later to talk about kind of do a spotlight on a few of them. Maybe a few that I want to highlight. So we launched QR code linking for plans and tasks. So essentially, users on web can now generate a QR code of one of their plan or task, print them and put them around the job site, and then allows users on mobile to scan the corresponding QR code and get redirected to the specific task or plan to find information they need faster. We've also made a lot of improvements on forms. I'll talk about fillable PDF later in a minute. But we also introduced links on forms, so you can now see the tasks and the plans that have been linked to a specific form. So it's something that's basically useful if you want to see like activities that are linked to daily report, for instance. We also done a lot of work on our BIM viewer. Most of that work has been kind of more like foundational work to improve the performance and the navigation of the viewer. But we also introduced a few new features like the object tree. And lastly, on project management suite, I'll talk about a few of the bigger launches, but also want to highlight some of the smaller ones. We've introduced presets on change orders to make it faster for your teams to input information in change orders. And then we introduced some customization on submittal, so specifically custom submittal responses, as well as the option to customize the numbering system that you want to use on your submittals, either by company code or by specifications. Cool. So moving on to some of the bigger launches. So first, I want to touch on our app marketplace. So over the last few years, like we've had two-way sync integrations with Box, Dropbox, OneDrive, and you might be familiar with those. This year, we've added a few more integrations to that list. The first one is around pulling files from SharePoint and Google Drive. So this is a one-way sync from a specific SharePoint or Google Drive folder into your Fieldwire files tab. Then we also introduced a Microsoft Teams integration, so that allows your teams to send notifications in Microsoft Teams when a specific action is taken within a form. And the goal here is to bridge the gap between your field teams and the office, which might be primarily using Microsoft Teams. And then we also introduced our Power BI connector. So this is a pretty powerful feature that allows you to basically like pull information from tasks, checklists, and forms across several of your projects into Power BI. And then that allows you to run your own analysis and build your own dashboard in Power BI based on the information that you create in Fieldwire. Maybe one last thing that I want to mention, like just today, so a few hours before this webinar, we also introduced a calendar integration, so an integration with Outlook and Google Calendar specifically, that allows you to synchronize your task from Fieldwire into your own calendar. Good. Next, I want to talk about project templates. So this has been a big feature that we launched earlier this year that allows you to templatize a project with all of the key structure of the project. So, the settings, the form templates, checklist templates, and so on. And then whenever a user on your account wants to create a new project, they have the option to copy, basically create that project from a project template and copy all of that information. So this is an improvement over the existing functionality that we had with project cloning. And this is a feature that we're going to keep adding to in the coming years. Next, I want to talk about fillable PDF that I briefly mentioned earlier. So when creating form templates, you can either build them from scratch, as you have been able to do so far, or you can also upload a specific PDF form, like a fillable PDF form. So this is especially useful if you have a customer of yours that is very specific about the format of the form, or like the daily report, for instance, that they want to use on a project. So you now have the option to upload that specific PDF document coming from your owner and make that a form template within Fieldwire. But all of the key functionalities around forms, like the way you can group forms within the product, like offline access, managing your status, is still going to be there. So it's really just like a new way of managing your form templates. Next, multiple reviewers. So and this is for our RFIs and submittals module. So you now have the option to add whenever you submit an RFI or submittal over to your design team, for instance, you can now add several reviewers. For instance, if you are going to get like a response from your architect as well as your structural engineer. So this is a workflow that's pretty common in this industry, and we're kind of making that easier for you to do that, all of that in Fieldwire. So the goal here is really to improve collaboration among stakeholders directly into Fieldwire. And then last but not least, our budget module that was launched a few weeks ago, and that's part of our Business Plus offering. So this is an entirely new tab within Fieldwire that allows you to set up your budget, so what you're allowed to spend, and compare that to the cost side, so what you've already spent or committed to. So the goal here is to help you, track the finances and track and monitor the finances of your project. And it's a module that's tightly integrated with the change orders, a module that we launched last year. So that allows you to, move money around and kind of track like how your exposure on your projects for specific scopes of work. Good. So those were kind of the highlights of what we've launched today, and I think I'll hand it back to Pranati for a quick poll.
And we have a quick poll question up here. Wait, do you see the poll question?
We saw it briefly, but I think it went away.
I'm sorry, there's some issue with the thing. No worries. Let's continue.
All right, so moving on to the future. So if you go to the next slide, Pranati. So what I want to do in the next 15 minutes is give you kind of a sneak peek of some of the big projects that we're currently working on or planning on working on in the next few years. Before I do that, so if you go to the next slide, Pranati, I want to tell you a bit about how we think about balancing initiatives at Fieldwire. So just to put things into perspective, so our R&D team, so the product team, engineering, design, and so on, is made of about 100 people at Fieldwire, and we're roughly splitting their attention equally across those three streams: new products, improvements, and technical. What I mean by new products is really working on new product lines, like the budget module that I just talked about, or big innovation topic like AI that I'll talk about in a minute. What I mean by improvements is us enhancing the existing product, and that is mostly fueled by the product feedback that we get from you and from our customers. This is something that's very important for us because it's whenever we launch a new product, we're not going to get it 100% of the way right. Like there's always room for improvement, and so we want to stay very close to our customers to hear about what works, what doesn't work, what could be improved, and make iterative improvements onto the product based on those that feedback. And then lastly, we spend about a third of the time on technical improvements. This is somewhat incompressible. And by that, I mean like working on improving the performance of the product, scaling of infrastructure to support our growing customer base, and also just upgrading our tech stack. The reason I'm mentioning it to you today is that the initiatives that I'm going to mention in the next 10 minutes are going to be in the new products bucket, right? I'm going to talk about like the big new things that we're going to be working on. But if you came in here today and had a very specific product request in mind, and you don't see it on the list of things that we're working on, don't lose hope. There's also a good chance that we're actually considering that product improvement. They would just be part of the improvements bucket that is on that chart. So with that, yeah, thanks, Pranati. With that, what I want to focus on today is tell you about 4 big initiatives that we're currently working on and that we'll be working on over the next couple of years. The first one is BIM to field, and it's really about bridging the gap between the field and the design phase, and bringing the BIM model into the hands of the field teams. The next one is around product financials, so pretty clear, like already talked about with budgeting. The goal here is to kind of track your product costs and help you manage your bottom line. Integration, so connecting Fieldwire with the rest of the ecosystem, and then AI, which I'm sure you're very familiar with by now, that we're going to start bringing into Fieldwire. So next slide, please, Pranati. So first off, like why BIM? Like why do you think it's important for us to be working on that and bring that to our customers? What we're observing throughout the industry is a global adoption of BIM, right? Some of that is also fueled by mandates, especially in the EU, that are requiring the use of BIM on some projects. But we're seeing that kind of trickle down throughout the rest of the world as well. The next one is like we have now more powerful devices, right? Like the newest phones and tablets can now handle larger models that were not possible to handle a few years back. And then lastly, like I think we observe a trend in the industry that is maturing. I remember like back when I was working in construction, like 8 years ago, BIM was mainly used on very large projects and mainly used during pre-constructions to run clash detection, for instance. The shift that we're observing is that it's being used increasingly on smaller projects, but also used for throughout the field operations. And what we're observing is that yet the technology hasn't really made it too well yet in the hands of the field users. Like field users still heavily rely on 2D plans, and we think that's partly caused by technology gap, and we think that we're very well positioned to solve that technology challenge and bring you BIM to the field. If you go to the next slide, Pranati, this is essentially our strategy when it comes to BIM. That is in a strategy that's going to unfold in the next couple of years. First and foremost, we want to make the BIM viewer super fast and performant, right? If you cannot open a model on any device and find your way around the model, it stops there. Like no one is going to use your product. So that's something we're paying a lot of attention to, and we've made already quite a few improvements to improve the ease of use and the navigation of the BIM model navigation. Next is around model management. So we're going to allow you to combine models from different trades, manage your layers, cut sections to help you navigate the model more easily. So like all of the typical like functionalities that you expect from a BIM viewer will be available in Fieldwire. And then lastly, we want to deeply integrate our BIM viewer with the rest of the Fieldwire experience, right? And our thought process here is that we want to augment your existing field workflows with information from the model. We want to make it easy to, jump to the corresponding 3D view if you're looking at the 2D plans. Like you want to get like context from the model, make it easy to jump to the corresponding view in the model. We want to allow you to create tasks in the model, like you can see on the image on the right, to track like specific issues that are happening in the field as well. So all of that will be possible in Fieldwire down the line. Next, when I talk about project financials, so as I mentioned to you, like this is something that we've actually already working on. Like we've released our budget module earlier this year, but this is still a new part of our offering. And so there's for us, like we want to keep investing heavily in that part of the product because we recognize that this is something that our customers are asking for. So we're going to focus heavily next year on improving usability of the budget module. Based on the feedback that we hear from our customers. We're going to add more customization and templatization options to better fit your needs. And then we're going to deeply integrate our budget module with the rest of the field suite So specifically like connecting change orders to forms and RFIs, but also like track non-monetary unit types. So we've heard from customers that they want to be able to track their hours in the budget module. So this is something that we're also looking into. Next priority, so integrations. As I said earlier, like we've already been adding a lot of integrations this past year. I probably don't need to convince you that building integrations is highly valuable as a contractor. What we hear from our customers is that ecosystem pain is universal, right? Every construction companies around the world are facing the same problem, like they're using different software for different needs. And it's hard to kind of move data from one system to another, right? It creates a lot of inefficiency and the risk of errors along the way. What we see is that there's no single platform, right? Different user groups have different needs and use software that's like really uniquely designed for their needs. So there's always going to be a need to integrate. Like a typical construction company is probably going to be using at least a dozen of software, and we need to somehow connect all of those together. And what we think is that we're uniquely positioning. For most of your field teams, like Fieldwire is kind of the gateway to the rest of the ecosystem. And so we think that we're uniquely positioned to connect the job site to the rest of the ecosystem. And what you can see on this chart is kind of a view of the future state, like where we would see Fieldwire connecting to your ERP, to whatever file sharing platform you're using, whether that's Ignite, SharePoint, and so on, Power BI, like any BI tools to run analytics, any point solution that you're also using for different construction use cases, and also like Navisworks and some of the design software that that are going to pull information for BIM. So this is what we're working towards, and you should see more integrations added over the next couple of years. And then AI, obviously, ton of buzz on the topic these days. The reason why we think like we're uniquely positioned, as a company to bring value through AI is that you're collecting a ton of field data in Fieldwire, right? Or ease of use, make it very easy for field teams to add photos, create tasks, add markups onto their plans. And so you're kind of sitting on a gold mine of data. And what we really want to do is help you make the most out of that data, right? So we want to turn your data into insights, but also like streamline some of the workflows that your teams have, so that you spend more time working on stuff that actually matters. So going to the specifics in the next slide, I want to highlight some of the core use cases that we're thinking of when it comes to AI. The first one is around data organization. It is actually a use case that we're going to start working on next year. And the goal here is to, as I said earlier, like kind of organize all of the data that you create and upload to Fieldwire, right? So taking the example of photos on a typical construction project in Fieldwire, there can be like thousands of photos uploaded on a weekly basis. And what we want to do is make it easy for you to find the photo that you're looking for. So we're thinking of like automatically tagging those photos based on terms that are specific to the construction industry. So in the example on the right, you can see like a scaffolding and concrete and safety hat tag created automatically, so you can find the photo more easily in the future. And in the next slide, just wanted to highlight a couple of other use cases that we're thinking of. So there's a lot of AI progress around insights, right? So and the way we think of using it into Fieldwire is basically like giving like summary of your data, like a summary of a form or of a task, or give you basically the ability to ask questions to the Fieldwire platform, like is my project on schedule and things of that nature. And then the last piece is around automation. So automating some of the tasks that take a lot of time. I mean, one example that comes to mind is just like helping with the project setup. So automatically creating like locations based on the plans that are uploaded on the platform. But there's a lot of other use cases that we're also thinking of. Good. So those were kind of the key initiatives that we're thinking of. I mean, that we're actually working on in the next few years. One last thing I wanted to mention is that Fieldwire is now part of Hilti. So we joined forces with Hilti 3 years ago, and we're part of the Hilti construction software suite. So why is that important? I mean, number one, like I wanted you to realize that we're in it for the long run, right? Hilti is very committed to software. It's a very strategic priority for the Hilti group, and they're investing a lot in building kind of a software offering within Hilti alongside their tools and consumables offering. What that means for us is that there's a lot of investment, and most of that investment is going towards, building more products and better supporting customers. And then the other important reason is that Fieldwire is going to be part of a suite, right, alongside 3 other products today, but in the future it could be a dozen of them. And our goal is going to be to build a very deeply integrated suite with the rest of those software products. So if down the line you see value in that and are interested into using some of our sister products, you can expect kind of a top-notch experience from that perspective. Good. I think that's all I wanted to share with you, and I think we have another poll if that works.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Stefan. We have another poll, and feel free to add your questions to the Q&A panel. And there comes the poll question, and looks like it's working. Perfect. Just a quick selection on what's your most excited feature or the area for 2025. And thank you for answering that. And yeah, thanks, Stefan, for going over the entire 2024 and 2025 vision. Let's get to the questions that we are asked. Again, feel free to add your questions to the Q&A panel. And here is the first question for you. Will you be adding an option for PDF export from the budget module?
So I know that we're starting with the Excel export as of today. I think that's a feature that we've recently launched or are about to launch. As far as like the PDF export, this is something that we're currently looking into. So I don't have a firm answer yet, but this is most likely something we'll add down the line next year.
Perfect. Thank you for that. The next question we have here is, does the financial tracking component allow integration of purchase orders and anticipated expenses to complete?
Yeah, so not as of yet, but that's something that we want to get towards in the future, right? And so I think we're not going to build like a pay apps within Fieldwire, but our approach is going to be to integrate with some of the most widely used solutions in the market. So this is something we're planning on looking into at least starting next year or the following.
Awesome, thank you. The next question here is, you mentioned that tasks will be integrated with Outlook. Is that an integration live now or upcoming?
No, it's actually live now. And again, like I was just released a couple of hours ago. But so now you have the option to, basically create like a calendar sync from your accounts page on Fieldwire if you're on the business tier and above. And you can basically select a specific project and a specific user. And that calendar will include all of the tasks from that specific project and user. And so if you want to see tasks across different users or projects, you can also create several of those calendars and get those imported into Outlook.
Perfect. The next one here is, would you be adding a description area to the photos?
Oh, this is actually a very popular request, so this is something that we're actively looking into. Not something that we're planning on working on as of yet, but it's something we're keeping a close eye on.
Awesome. Another question here on plans. Is there an option for subfolders within plans on the roadmap for Fieldwire?
Yes, so that's one that we're actively considering for next year. So again, this is one of our most commonly requested feature. So it's going to happen. It's not a question of if, it's more a question of when. And so there's a chance it happens next year or the following year at the latest.
Perfect. The next question is, will there be an improvement in the queue to allow assignees to reassign submittals or RFI to another user? Would there be any changes in the workflow?
Yeah, so I don't know specifics on that one. I mean, I know we've been improving the workflow quite a bit, and that sounds like something that we're considering, but I'll have to get back to you on that one with the specifics.
Awesome. The other one is, can you globally add new employees across the whole platform for all jobs?
Yes, I mean, so I'm not sure I understand the question, so feel free to rephrase it. But yes, like you can manage your projects across the entire world and we have several other customers that have projects and employees across different countries. But no limits there.
And then the next one is a little bit on checklist updates. Are you thinking of adding a feature that if a checklist updates, it updates all of the tasks with matching checklists?
Yeah, this is, yeah, I'm smiling at that one. It's something we hear quite a bit. It's tricky to do it in a way that's like not disrupting to an existing workflow, right? So this feels like potentially like a dangerous feature where a user could do that without realizing like that is actually affecting work that's been already documented on existing tasks. So, to answer your question, we're keeping a close eye on that one, but that's not something that's currently in the works just based on that complexity.
Perfect. As we are on questions, actually, I have another question for you, Stefan. I know all of these different fields are like your babies, but which one are you most excited about for 2025?
I mean, for me personally, it's probably gonna be like BIM to field. I mean, as a product engineer before joining Fieldwire, like I spent a lot of time kind of coordinating trades in the model, and just seeing that like just fit into to Fieldwire sounds very exciting to me. And I think there's like some exciting technical challenges, usability challenges. So it's a cool problem to go after.
That's a good feature. I love that too, because I come from the BIM background and I understand how we can add value in that space for sure. Awesome. That's pretty much it with the Q&A session. Thank you everyone for attending today, and I hope the session was useful. And we would really appreciate if you could stay on for a couple of minutes and fill in the survey answers. It would really help us to determine the effectiveness of these webinars and also plan for our future webinars. And thank you so much, Stefan, for joining this webinar and going over the vision for 2025. Have a good day, everyone. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.